Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. So in today's video I'm going to show you guys how I do my 9 most used stitches. If you didn't know, I have an Etsy shop where I sell hand embroidered tote bags. I love embroidering so much, it is definitely my passion, and I thought I'd show you guys how I do it because I love it so much and I'd love to share that love with you. So before you start stitching, you're going to want to grab your needle, your thread, your needle threader, your embroidery hoop with some fabric in it, and a pair of sharp scissors. You also might want to separate your thread into the thickness that you want. I separated my strands into 3, so I kind of split my thread in half. You're also going to need to tie a knot in your thread and thread your needle, and you're ready to go. So the first stitch I'm going to teach you guys how to do is backstitch. So for backstitch, you're going to want to come up through the back of the hoop and go back down depending on how long you want your stitch length to be. Then come back up a stitch length away and go back through the hole you used to do the first stitch. So once again, come up through the back of the hoop, come back down depending on how long you want the stitch length to be, then come up a stitch length away and back through the hole that you used for the first stitch. When you're finished, tie a knot in your thread to secure your backstitch. For whipped backstitch, you're going to want to start by stitching as you would doing a normal backstitch. Now to turn the stitch into whipped backstitch, you want to pull your needle and thread through the hole on the end, and then slide your needle underneath the closest stitch. Once you've pulled the thread under the first stitch, then pull the thread under the second stitch in the same direction, and the thread kind of twists around the stitches. To finish off your backstitch, then just pull your thread through the original hole that you made when you started stitching and tie a knot to secure. For chain stitch, start at the back and pull your thread all the way through. Then go back down as close as you can without putting the needle through the original hole. When pulling the thread back down, leave a small loop. Bring your needle back up through the back and through the loop, and go back down close to the last stitch you just made, once again leaving a loop. Then pull the needle back up through the fabric and through the loop just like before, and come back down close to the stitch you just made. You will then start to see the chain being developed. Then just keep going until you are done. Apologies for my very wonky looking chain stitch. To finish off your chain stitch, bring the needle back down over the last loop to keep it in place. Then secure with a knot. The lazy daisy stitch is most used when creating a flower or a leaf or anything in the shape of a petal or a teardrop. So to do a lazy daisy stitch, pull the needle up through the pointed end of the shape and go back down through the same hole you came up, but remember to leave a loop. Then pull your needle up through the fabric where you want your shape to end and pull the thread down on the other side of the loop, securing the shape. Tie a knot when you're finished using this stitch to secure it. Running stitch is the most basic stitch you will use. To do a running stitch, pull your thread all the way through from the back of the hoop. Then go back down a stitch length away. Leave a gap and then pull your thread back through the back of the hoop and do another stitch length. Repeat this until you're done and secure it with a knot. The French knot is one of my favourite stitches. To do a French knot, pull your thread through the back of the hoop, take your needle and point it away from your embroidery. Then wrap your thread around the needle and go back down into the same hole you came out of. To make it easier, you can hold the thread tightly as you pull your needle back down to ensure a knot is created. When you're finished, tie a knot in the back and that'll secure it. I can't seem to find this stitch online anywhere, but I've been doing this stitch since I started embroidering, and I believe that it's called a star stitch. To do a star stitch, I pull my thread through the back of the hoop where I want one of the points of my star to be. I will then pull the thread back down where I want the center of the star to be. I will pull the thread through the fabric towards myself at another one of the points and bring it back into the middle. I will continue doing this until I am happy with the star I have created, and I will secure it with a knot. So this is my own take on the long and short stitch. I find it much easier and it has pretty much the same effect. I will bring the thread through the hoop towards myself and then go back down a stitch length. I will then come back up right next to the hole I just went down in and do a stitch towards the first hole I created. I will continue to make stitches next to each other until I reach the bottom of the shape. I will then bring the thread up at the end of each stitch and repeat the same technique until I filled the whole shape. When I have done this, I will go back and stitch from the middle of one stitch to the middle of another in the same direction. This blends the threads together and hides the holes where the thread comes in and out. This stitch isn't the easiest to explain, but I found this stitch a lot easier than long and short stitch, and it does essentially the same job. Just like all the other stitches, secure it with a knot. The final stitch I'm going to show you guys is the satin stitch. For satin stitch, bring your thread up through the back of the hoop on one end of the shape and go back down on the other end of the shape. You can then come up next to the last hole you created, or you can come up next to the first hole you created. It completely depends on how easy you find satin stitch and how much you prioritize saving thread. Then bring the thread back down on the other side of the shape. Repeat this stitch until you've completely filled in the shape. Secure it with a knot. This stitch is a great filler stitch for any shape, but it can get a little bit tricky. Remember, if you want your stitch to look more smooth, use less strands of embroidery floss. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope it made sense to you guys and that I didn't trip over my words too much. If you did like this video, then please give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to see more from me. My blog, my Instagram and my TikTok will be linked down below, as well as my Etsy shop. I make hand embroidered tote bags, so please go and check me out over there. And yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful week and I will see you next time.